All right, everyone, welcome back into another preseason NFL DFS video. Going to be breaking down all the top plays here for this two-game slate on Sunday. Let's go ahead and get into it. So as you guys will see, we have the Packers versus the Broncos, the Saints versus the Niners, and these are actually two of the higher scoring games that we have on the whole slate for preseason week 2. We'll jump into the sportsbook tab here, and we'll see Packers versus Broncos is going to be a 39-point spread, or game total. About a 7-point spread in favor of the Denver Broncos winning, and that is because the Broncos are going to be playing their starters about a series or so in that game. And then if we look at the Green Bay Packers, they will not be starting their starters. The biggest thing with the Denver Broncos is looking at their quarterback situation. Bo Nix is going to start in this game. Zach Wilson is going to start the last game of the preseason. Looking at this, it's not really a quarterback battle. They've kind of just came out and said Bo Nix is going to be our starter. Reports say that Zach Wilson's been playing well as well. The issue that we have here with these plays, especially for preseason NFL DFS, is they're all going to play about a third of the game. Thus, really none of them are truly going to be in play for us on this slate. Now, when we look at the Green Bay Packers, one of the more important things is going to be their injuries. Now, the injury report, the news being submitted on the injury report, is not as fruitful as really what we're going to see today. So let's go ahead and actually start with the Green Bay Packers, because that is where we're going to get a majority of our top plays this slate, which for me, guys, as a Packers fan, I do love that. It makes it a little bit more fun, but we know that Jordan Love is going to sit in this game. Thus, Sean Clifford and Michael Pratt are both going to play about a half of football in this game. And so with that, if they're both playing a half of football, that's really all I need. Now, which one do I want to be on the most? Maybe Michael Pratt slightly more, just because this does seem to be a true QB battle. And with that, Clifford played 38 snaps last week, and then Michael Pratt played 23. I wouldn't be surprised to see that flip this week. We don't have any confirmation on that. We do know Sean Clifford is going to start, but just logically speaking, I think that makes the most sense. Chances are we should just even split those guys, though. 50-50 per, we might be on other quarterbacks, but 50-50 split between those two. Looking at the running back position for the Green Bay Packers, they are banged up, especially if the starters are not going to be playing. They are very thin. So Josh Jacobs going to be a starter. A.J. Dillon, currently the RB2, I would assume, in this offense. Now, the biggest question I have is how much is he going to play, or is he going to play in this game? Because Lloyd is going to be out in this game. We kind of know that already. And another player that could potentially be out, and I hate giving out this information for free, but I enjoy the support from you guys, is Howard is someone that on the 14th and 13th did not practice. We haven't received any sort of confirmation as to whether or not he is going to play in this game, but they did just recently sign a running back that's obviously not available on the slate. Probably not going to be someone that's going to play that much. So we got Emmanuel Wilson. Emmanuel Wilson was a former Denver Broncos running back in training camp, got cut, then the Packers picked him up. Kind of a fun story there. A little bit of a revenge game narrative there if you want to go there. My worry with Emmanuel Wilson is that this is now the second preseason in which he has looked like their second best running back on the team. And so he was someone that prior to getting injured last year actually started to seem like he was taking over for A.J. Dillon as that RB2 role. That's my concern, is that maybe he is the RB2. I doubt it. I just, based off of our reports and everything, I doubt it, but there is that concern. It's not as much of a lock and load as I would want. Now, maybe that's a little bit being too close to it, In some situations in preseason NFL DFS, ignorance is bliss. But Wilson, again, it makes logical sense for him to play, but also just based off of how good he's looked, makes logical sense for him not to play that much. I'm going to play him, and if he doesn't play, I'm kind of okay with that. We do want to get confirmation on Howard, if he's active or not. If he does sit, we're just looking at Merriweather to have a lot of work in this game. I do want to talk about the snap counts from last week for those running backs as well, guys. Snap count-wise, Wilson played 22. That does seem to be a little bit out of necessity, just with Lloyd getting injured in that game. Lloyd played 14 snaps, and so, what do we do with that? Whose snaps are those going to go to, especially if Howard sits? Howard only played 11 snaps in that game. So again, it is tough to figure out what the snaps are going to be, but if Howard sits, this is what we're looking at. Again, we want that confirmation prior to lock. Receiver-wise, there's been so many situations this preseason where I'm like, what's with the ownership? Last night, it was with Winston Jr. for the Seattle Seahawks. One of my favorite plays, 35% owned. I showed you guys on this video. Came in at 2% owned. Dude went off. It's just like a head scratcher. That happened with Grant DuBose, who I'm like, yeah, this is the top receiver play on the slate. And for sure for the Green Bay Packers, that ended up happening. 6 targets in that game, caught 5 of them, 66 yards. And my one concern is that maybe he played too well. Maybe he has kind of locked down that receiver number 5 spot. He did look good. A lot of people in best ball drafts have been trying to make Bo Melton a thing. I'm just not sure that's a thing. I don't think that's any route that people should be going right now. Bo Melton will play a lot in this game. Okay, we kind of know that already. He played 39 snaps last week. He's going to play the most in this game as well. He did have a chance at a touchdown. I believe it was Sean Clifford who just missed him for that touchdown, but he's firmly going to be in play. The Malik Heath as well. Malik Heath is someone that is playing for a roster spot on this team. They go deep. They got the deepest receiver room in the league. It is pretty crazy, guys. Most of these players, Heath, Grant DeBose, Bo Melton, would be receiver number 4s on most teams. It's pretty crazy. And you even have like Toure, who looked pretty good as well, and Julian Hicks. Julian Hicks is someone that could get a decent amount of work in this game as well. So I will be mixing in those two slightly, but we kind of know that we should probably just be playing these 3. These 3 are going to get a lot of work, most likely, and it just feels safe. Like we're probably going to get around 45% of the snaps with all those 3 receivers, and I feel pretty good about that. Now looking at the Green Bay Packers tight end wise, Luke Musgrave, is he going to play? He's considered a starter, right? So Tucker Kraft still banged up, not going to play. Last week I saw that news and I'm like, let's go in on Ben Sims, which was correct. Ben Sims played in 33 snaps. But when we look at kind of the player production, it was actually Joel Wilson, who is a fellow rookie, who ended up with 3 catches for 30 yards. Now that might make Joel Wilson the most popular tight end play on the slate, and it probably should. But if you hear other people in the space talking about Joel Wilson, Ben Sims could potentially be a good pivot off of that, a game theory pivot. But for now, Joel Wilson's kind of the easy play there. And then from there, do we want to play Packers defense? I don't know. We're kind of just mixing and matching, guys. But this is the crazy slate that we have. We could theoretically just build our lineups like this, lock in a nice safe floor. Hopefully that game is as high scoring as what Vegas is telling us. Now let's go ahead and jump on into the Denver Broncos. So with it, guys, quarterback, we don't need to go there, I don't think. Like, they're just, spread out the production, and that's going to be the issue with the Denver Broncos. They are truly trying to get looks at their players, and so with that, it's going to be difficult for us to figure out what to do with that because they're going to be spreading out the production. Stars are going to play a bit. So Williams probably going to get a little bit of work. P. Ryan going to get a little bit of work. Jaleel McLaughlin looked really good last week. I said he has the potential to be this year's Kyron Williams in the sense that he's going extremely late in drafts. You got a starter that, for whatever reason, the coaching staff doesn't seem to be too excited about him, at least early on in the year. And in training camp now, they're kind of singing his praises, but that's typical stuff, right? McLaughlin's definitely interesting, but you also have Audric Estime, who, I don't know, he just kind of looked like a guy. There wasn't much there. I actually thought Blake Watson looked a little bit better than him, but Blake Watson's production came like within the last 7 minutes of the game, all of it. And that's concerning, especially if the Stars play maybe another series in this game, which they could. Then what does that mean for him? So again, the Broncos, sure. Can there be production there? Yes, definitely. But it does become more difficult to predict. And same thing with the receivers, guys. They really don't know who their receiver number 3 is going to be, receiver number 4, receiver number 5, heck, maybe even receiver number 2. And so, sure, can Courtland Sutton have a decent game in limited playing time? Yes. Can we see Tim Patrick continue to play well? Sure. The one player I would have been interested on the most was Devon Valet, who is most likely going to be out in this game, who was held out of practice on Friday. Sean Payton said he does have a chance to play, but we don't know. And so, again, more difficult. Like, Brennan Johnson would probably be the player I'd want to get to the most if I had to choose. I just don't think I want to choose. I think it's a guessing game there. For tight end, another player that we could potentially get on is actually going to be Lucas Kroll. If we look at the box score from their game last week, again, we're going to see a lot of production. It was a high-scoring game in that game as an FY. I mean, 34-30, high-scoring game. This game's expected to be high-scoring as well. But with that, like, how much work are we going to project then for them, right? Like, one running back in 7+ carries is ideal in preseason NFL DFS. They had 3 running backs get 7 or more carries. With that, we did see the production be spread out in the passing game. Lucas Kroll is someone that did have a good game in that game. 4 receptions, 31 yards. And the thing with it is that wasn't too surprising. He was someone that I was slightly on that slate. So, I don't mind that, but also not something we need to go crazy with. And so again, very difficult to really love any Denver Broncos players. And that's kind of the thing with preseason NFL DFS. You need to love the plays. So let's go ahead and jump on into this next game. It's also going to be a decently high scoring game. We got the Niners versus the Saints. So 38.5, 38.4 around there is going to be the game total here. Now, injury report wise, they are kind of banged up. We kind of know that, especially at the running back position, that being the Niners there. And so the biggest question is what can we expect? We know that the Niners starters are going to play about a series or two. Great. I'm actually very interested to see if that means Jordan Mason. It probably will be Jordan Mason kind of leading the way. From there, who's going to play next? Everyone, including myself, thought it would be Cody Schrader. That did not happen. He ended up being very limited in this game, and I was shocked by that. I didn't see if there was an injury related to that or not, but he played significantly less snaps than Matt Breida. Matt Breida actually ended up playing 27 snaps. And this is one of those things where, like, in the preseason, sure, it makes sense to give a veteran running back a decent amount of work, especially if you're not going to rely on them at all, if that's not going to be a possibility at all. At the same time, if you think they have a chance to make the team, you don't want a veteran running back putting on that much more work. And so, will I have shares some? Yes. Will I have some shares here? Yes. It is a guessing game. And it shouldn't be. We should be able to figure out who it's going to be, but it is truly a guessing game here. I wish we had a better indication of which of those two players we should be on. I think we just need to mix and match it a little bit. Quarterback-wise, we're not going there. Allen had a good game. I just want to call that out. Good for him. From there, though, receiver-wise, also, I hate it. It's a little bit of a guessing game. Jacob Cowing is someone like I don't mind as a play. Tate Martin's going to be the play I think everyone's going to be on because, well, it does make sense. Tate Martin played a lot of snaps, 39 snaps last week. And obviously, he had a very big game going for 5 receptions, 58 yards. That could easily happen again. And same thing with Trent Taylor, who ended up playing 36 snaps as well. That is a significant amount in the preseason. So those are going to be two players I do think we should be looking at on this slate because I do expect those two players to be the two that get the most work in this game again. Tight end wise, I don't think we need to go there. I think we have our tight end plays thus far. So let's go ahead and jump on into the Saints. So for the Saints, we know Derek Carr is going to play a little bit. He wants to play a little bit. He's been vocal about that. So he's going to play. Then what does that mean for the rest of the players here? Okay. Spencer Rattler, sure, got a little bit banged up in practice. I don't think we're worried about him sitting. But if he were to sit, like Jake Haener would then become a great play. He would end up playing basically the full game after Derek Carr leaves. So something to pay attention to. I don't think that's going to come to fruition. At the running back position, we also have an interesting spot here where is Jamal Williams going to play all that much? He will play with the starters, then be phased out. From there, it's probably going to be another slate in which we're looking at Jordan Mims. Jordan Mims was someone everyone was looking at last week, and I think we're going to be looking at him again this week. Now, Mims wasn't all too productive, but it wasn't bad as well. Like, we would obviously take this. 10 carries, 38 yards, added on 2 catches for 8 yards. Like, that is perfect. We love that there. James Robinson's going to be in play, though, as well. Let's call that out. 7 carries, 27 yards. He is fighting for a roster spot as well. Had 1 catch there as well. Certainly someone that we should be paying attention to on the slate. They're both going to be firmly in play. I think it's pretty simple. Play Jordan Mims, play James Robinson, and then for the Packers, play Wilson. Figure out whether or not Howard's playing. We might not get that news, guys. We really might not. It's crazy. And then Merriweather, if Howard's sitting, play that. We got 4 really good running backs, and then just hope that the other running backs on the slate don't go off, because obviously they can. Receiver-wise for the Saints, also a decent spot. A.T. Perry being a little bit banged up on Friday does create an interesting spot for the Saints in general. Because if he were to sit, we probably would just be loading up a little bit more on Kevin Austin Jr. He was someone I was already going to be looking at on the slate. Now, again, if we kind of look at the box score, he is someone that didn't really dominate. 1 catch, 6 yards. He did play the most snaps out of any receiver, though, which is directly different from A.T. Perry, who also played a lot of snaps and had 4 receptions and 85 yards. Now, watching it, I don't think anyone particularly stood out. If Perry were to sit, you're probably looking at Samson Nakua to get more work in this game. Obviously, Puka Nakua's brother, it's kind of a fun narrative there, but he'd be someone that would be a logical fill-in play. But I think we're looking at Kevin Austin Jr. And so, looking at this kind of build, if you guys are really maybe worried about being on the Packers too much, you could go this route. I don't know if we need to do that. I think I want to flush a running back on the slate, but you could go that route. And for what's worth, guys, tight end wise for the Saints, one of my favorite plays on the last slate was Holker here, and Holker had himself a very good game in that game as well. 3 catches, 24 yards. Again, for the tight end spot, we would certainly take that production. And so definitely a fun, interesting slate. You know, I think this will kind of be a little bit of my base build and mixing and matching from there. But that's going to be all for this video. I will be updating the 9-to-5 lineup optimizer pretty much right after this video is uploaded to get more accurate projections in there for this 2-game slate. It is a pretty solid one. I'm kind of excited about this one. Again, hopefully no injuries. So sick of having injuries to my builds. It's been like every single slate except for one, a player's gotten injured that was going to get significant playing time. Very tilting when that happens. All right, guys, that's going to be all. Thank you for watching. If you guys want access to that 9-to-5 lineup optimizer, it is available on 9to5sports.com for just $10 a month. Gives you access to that as well as all the prop tools that you need for Prize Picks and Underdog, as well as all the fantasy golf tools that you need for fantasy golf. All right, thanks for watching. Good luck. And as always, let's keep cashing.